Hey everybody, look, today is December 26th. It's the day after Christmas. Our office was closed, but I got a really important topic that I want to address on this video, and we'll do a bunch of them on IRA distributions, but this is one that comes up a lot. Most people don't know about it. Let's jump right in. By the way, I'm Paul Rabelais. I'm an estate planning attorney. I work out of our offices in Louisiana, but the issue that I'm addressing on this video applies wherever you live. So it's common, particularly when couples are in a second or third marriage and each of the spouses has children from a prior marriage or prior relationship. It's common for the spouse to say, one of the spouses or both of the spouses to say, as we talk about their estate planning program, to say something like, yeah, if I predecease my spouse, I want my estate or certain assets to be available for my spouse because my spouse may need those assets to live off of for the rest of my spouse's lifetime. But when my spouse later dies, I want the remaining assets to revert back to my children. I don't want them to go to my spouse's children or my spouse's next spouse. I want to protect my children, but make it available to my spouse. So that's a common principle among couples with children from a prior marriage, and it gets tricky though when assets in the estate are IRA, individual retirement account assets. So that's when you got to be really careful. Let me give an example. Let's say husband and wife each have two children. Husband has two children, wife has two children. And let's say when the husband dies, he has an IRA, a traditional IRA worth $1 million. And let's say in the year after the husband dies, the wife is 80 years old. So now with that in place, let's take a look at a couple of presumptions. One is the income tax planning strategy that most people recommend is to keep the balance of the IRA, the retirement account, as large as possible, which permits an IRA owner to earn investment income on deferred income taxes. So that's what most people do. Just take the required distributions, let the rest continue to go tax-free, tax deferred. Yeah, sometimes people play these games, and games is a strong word, where people say, I'm going to take out more than the required amount because I'm in a low tax bracket now, and my spouse or my kids or whoever, or I'll be in a larger tax bracket later. But for the most part, people want to keep that IRA as large as possible, postpone the income taxes as long as possible. And again, just know that we're talking about a traditional IRA as opposed to a Roth IRA. So this is all about traditional IRAs, which get hit with the big income taxes. And we'll talk about two scenarios here. I want to focus in on the scenario where a husband, for example, we could say the wife died first and it was her IRA, but for purposes of just keeping it simple, let's say the husband died first. He had the IRA and he named his wife as the designated beneficiary. And then we're going to talk about a scenario where the husband names a trust for the spouse as the beneficiary of his IRA. So first, let's talk about naming the surviving spouse as the designated beneficiary. It's the most common option. Husband has an IRA, either intentionally or unintentionally, he names his wife as the designated beneficiary. Maybe he names his children as the contingent beneficiary, thinking that protects the IRA, even if he dies before his wife, which it doesn't, because when he dies, it's hers, and now it's, she can treat it as her own IRA. Now, the surviving spouse's ability to roll over that IRA into her own IRA gives her powerful options not available to any other IRA beneficiaries. Here's what I mean. If the surviving spouse who was named as the designated beneficiary holds the IRA as an owner, her required minimum distributions, RMDs, are determined using what's called the Uniform Lifetime Table, under which her life expectancy, or the right term is her applicable distribution period, is the joint life expectancy of the surviving spouse and a hypothetical 10 years younger beneficiary. Husband dies, wife is the beneficiary. She's not married, but she gets to use the Uniform Lifetime Table because she is considered the owner of the IRA. she was able to roll it over into her own IRA. And because she's the owner of the IRA, she gets to use the Uniform Lifetime Table, which determines required minimum distributions based on someone her age and a hypothetical 10 years younger beneficiary. So if she only withdraws the required minimum distributions under the Uniform Lifetime Table, the IRA is guaranteed to outlive the wife. In fact, it's like the IRA will be worth more in her late 80s than it was when she inherited the IRA at age 79 or 80. Let's plug some numbers in. Husband dies the next year, wife is 80. And because she gets to use the Uniform Lifetime Table, her required minimum distribution is only 5.35% of the IRA. Or since the IRA was $1 million, her RMD is $53,500. The next year at age 81, her RMD is 5.59%. Next year at age 82, her RMD is 5.85%. So as long as the investment performance of the IRA is greater than that roughly 5% required distribution, which gradually goes up. Again, if she just takes required distributions, the IRA will continue to grow and there'll be a big chunk left when she dies. The downside, though, of husband naming wife as the designated beneficiary is the wife is treated as the owner of that IRA, and she can name whoever she wants to as the beneficiary or beneficiaries of that IRA. So with the stroke of a pen, perhaps with a click of a mouse, she then could, change the beneficiaries and name her children, maybe name a new spouse and husband's children would be left out in the cold. So naming a spouse as a beneficiary is, without question, the best case scenario for income tax deferral, but it really offers no protection to the children or heirs of the original IRA owner. Maybe they'll have an informal understanding and they'll have a discussion one day, husband and wife say, husband says, wife, I'm gonna leave you the IRA and so you can treat it as your own IRA so that you can continue to get, maximum income tax deferral, but please name my children as the beneficiaries to get it when you die. So that's about the best the husband can do if he wants to name his wife as the beneficiary. Really offers little or no protection to his children. So, what sometimes, second option, is where husband names a trust for the spouse as the beneficiary of his IRA. Trust terms usually say something like, after husband dies, there's a trustee of the trust who will make required distributions to that surviving wife, maybe even have the ability to give her extra distributions if she needs them. But when surviving wife dies, the remaining assets in that trust revert back to husband's children. Certainly appears to offer the husband's children a lot of protection from the wife being able to divert assets to a new spouse or her own children. So, however, problem is the RMD rules. So even if that trust qualifies as something called a see-through trust, which we'll have to address in other videos, the RMDs will be based because she's not considered the owner of the IRA. The RMDs will be based on her single life expectancy, which results in substantially less income tax deferral that would have been available if the surviving spouse was named as the outright beneficiary and rolled over those IRA benefits into her own IRA. Let me give you an example. Husband dies, he has an IRA, names a trust as the beneficiary, trust for his spouse, and names his children as the principal beneficiaries of the trust to get those remaining assets when his wife later dies. Wife is 80 the year after husband dies, but because she's not treated as the owner and now she's unable to use the Uniform Lifetime Table, she has to use the single life expectancy table, which means her RMD, required minimum distribution, will be 9.8% of the IRA's value, $98,000 as opposed to $53,500 had she been left the designated beneficiary in her own name. So, and then at age 81, that required distribution is over 10% of the value, and each year that percentage increases. So if the wife lives long enough, the RMDs will cause most of those IRA benefits to be distributed outright to her, which will defeat the purpose of trying to protect those assets for husband's children when wife later dies. So there's some balancing and some trade-offs that you really have to take into account. Let me see if I can summarize it quickly. Husband names wife as the beneficiary, allows for maximum income tax deferral because she gets to use the uniform lifetime table, small required distributions, but then she, as the owner, can name beneficiaries, whoever she wants to as the beneficiaries, offers no protection to husband's children. Or husband names a trust as the beneficiary of his IRA, and that trust is for the benefit of his wife. And then when wife dies, those trust assets revert back to husband's children. But the required minimum distributions are much greater, almost twice as much. And so it's likely that if the wife lives for another several years, most of the IRA will be distributed out to her in the form of her required distributions. And once it's distributed to her, she can do whatever she wants to with it and leave it to whoever she wants. And there won't be much left in that IRA to go back to husband's children when she dies. So realize there's some trade-offs, realize there's important decisions there. Get some help. This is not an issue that it's kind of a high-level issue, but it's one that can really mess up families if informed decisions are not made. Here's what I'd like you to do. If you like the video, give it a like. If you want to hear more, two things. One, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then write on the comment section below your experience, your thoughts, so that others can benefit from what your thoughts and experiences are, and we can get some feedback on what additional information you'd like to hear to get even more educated on these important estate planning topics. I'm Paul Rabelais. Hope that helps you with some of your IRA beneficiary options. Have a great day. Go leave a legacy.